welcome to Geeks Unleashed, the Book Club edition. My name is Chief Bomb, Geek Bomb, Maude, Garrett. As you know, you've seen my face many times around these traps. Once a month, we do like to chat about a book, and this time we've got a Delzer panel absolutely loves the shit out of, so that's pretty cool. So let's introduce the panelists. We have Book Club President Shona coming in all the way from Germany at 4:15 in the morning.
Yeah, so I just set my alarm and woke up for this, so hopefully you can't tell that I'm really, really tired, but it's worth it.
You look amazing. And all the way from Wollongong in Sydney, Australia, we have Tegan. Hello, Tegan.
Hi, guys.
Now, it's not so bad. It's only 1:15 in the afternoon for you, but you are in the middle of moving.
And I am still in my pajamas. Don't let the top fool you. That's Star Wars as well. Oh, I'm going to fall over.
That's just crutches and face to all of us. So thank you.
You're welcome, Internet.
Yeah. What was that? 90 seconds before we got a crutch shot on that one. And the author for today's our author for today's book club edition of Geeks Unleashed. He has written a book called Zeus is Dead, which is a spoiler in itself in the title. So no one get angry at that one. His name is Michael G. Munz, I'm going to say, but it's probably Munz because I never checked.
Actually, no, you've pronounced it right the first time, which is very rare. So, yeah.
Hey! Well, I'm in the Strange Name Club, so I kind of feel like I've got a little bit. So, to kick things off, we're going to get our geek on, and I want to talk about everyone's power. If you don't know and if you're not familiar, Geek Bomb has pretty much coined the term power, which is the acronym PWR. And we ask, what are you currently playing, watching, and reading? Now, for those who are currently watching, hello guys, thanks for joining us. If you do look below the video, there is a comment box. So we want to hear from you. Please keep that discussion happening. Any questions panel, you know what to do. Ask it because we will absolutely get to it throughout this entire stream. So we'll kick things off with you, Michael. What is your power? What are you playing, watching, and reading?
Right now I'm playing actually two. I just started Alien Isolation, I just played the first 5 minutes and that's it. But before that,
too scary to play more than 5 minutes.
No, I had to actually get online and talk to you guys. So, but yeah, that's the official version. Yeah, really, I was actually tense and I haven't even met anything yet. It just came out of the airlock and yeah, and everyone's they've already wiped out 2 characters and I don't know what's going on. But right now I'm also playing XCOM with the expansion.
Oh, okay. Now XCOM had a very different way of playing, where if you're dead, you're dead.
I like
Which is something that games aren't really doing anymore. Because I'm playing I know I'll go on mine. I'll talk about it later. So that's what you're playing. What are you watching?
Watching, I'm in the middle of The Strain, and also I'm actually rewatching Twin Peaks because I don't know if you heard that they're reviving the series in 2016, but I'm also showing it to someone who hasn't seen it before, and that's one of my top favorite shows.
And what are you reading?
Oh, and what I'm reading, couple things. I'm reading The Kingdom, which is a sort of a novella by Kane S. Latrani, and actually it's a story set in the Kingdom of Kingdom, which is ruled by the King Lance Kingdom. It's a comedy, as you might guess. I'm also reading a more serious book that I just started. It's about the fairy faith in, what is it actually called? It's over here actually. The fairy faith in Celtic countries.
Ooh, wow. Oh, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that first book that you're reading needs to be based around a drinking game. So every time you read the word king, then it goes.
I think you would. You would probably die very quickly. I wouldn't recommend.
Fantastic. Shona, on to you.
Yeah, so I've been playing Super Smash Brothers for the 3DS, which just came out a little more than a week ago. Unfortunately, work's been a bit busy this week, so I haven't had as much time to play as I want to, but it's a lot of fun. I love the Smash Brothers games, so yeah, it's just Nintendo characters like beating the crap out of each other, and yeah, really.
What character do you play as in it though?
So this new one, I haven't decided yet who I'll main. There's quite a few new characters, and of course all the existing characters have been tweaked a little bit, so I haven't settled on one yet. I'm just playing pretty much randomly and just trying them all out and getting a feel for all of them. I've just started watching Outlander. I don't know if you guys have heard about this.
Oh God, yes.
So yeah, it's a TV show about a World War II nurse who, so this is set in 1945, who gets sent back in time to Scotland in the 1700s, and yeah, it's really, really good. I've only watched 2 episodes so far, but can't wait to find out what happens next. And I have a feeling that soon I'll be reading the books that it's based on.
The books are so good. Oh God.
That's what I hear, yeah. But what I'm actually reading at the moment is Blood of Elves, which is one of the books that inspired the Witcher video games, which I love. So,
all right,
yeah, that's really good too.
Tegan, you're up. Power.
Playing, okay, this is going to sound like gratuitous plugging, and I don't mean to. So if anyone saw on our Twitch stream the other night, we were doing Tegan versus FIFA 15, she who knows nothing about football, so that was pretty hilarious, me making a complete idiot of myself for the internet's pleasure. Toby did jump on and help out for a little bit, though, so that was that. And I think we're going to do the same with NBA. Then watching, I have to catch up on the first episode of American Horror Story tonight because I've been without internet, so I'm desperate to get back on that. And reading, besides Zeus is Dead, of course, I'm also reading The Lost Life of Ava Braun, so it's a biography about Hitler's mistress, because you know me, I am the history nerd and I love it.
Yeah, wow. Everyone who's watching this one, make sure you submit your powers as well, so we'll read them out. The best part about power is hearing about things that you may have not necessarily heard of before. So I think that's really cool. It's like uncovering these great gems. For me, I'm playing Shadow of Mordor, and I have my review up online already because it's freaking unreal, guys. It's so good. I'm not sure, Michael, if you've played Assassin's Creed at all, if that's your jam.
I haven't played Assassin's Creed. I played Dishonored. And people keep telling me to play Assassin's Creed, but I actually saw your review, and that got me interested in Shadows of Mordor, so I'm very curious about that.
And yeah, look, again, it's a narcissistic, vanity included here because I put the Maude in Mordor. But that aside, it's actually a really, really epic game, and I've had a really shit week. So actually, killing orcs and mowing them down and doing it in such a grotesque way is so satisfying for me currently. And I am watching Flash and Arrow. Both of those, the Flash premiered this week, and Arrow is back with season 3. So I watched both of those. Arrow is the same stuff that we love. There's a little bit of a love story happening in there, which I'm like, woohoo. The Flash, we'll see how it goes. It had a stronger start than Gotham. And I am reading, yes, the brand new canon with Star Wars called A New Dawn, and today at Comic-Con they did a panel on A New Dawn and what it's like having canon-specific content to write about with Star Wars, and I found out about it 4 minutes before it finished. So I didn't watch it. But that's what I'm currently reading, and we'll be reviewing it on the next episode of Jedi Alliance. So I tell you what, it's all happening right now. So let's get into being a writer. Surely there are a lot of deterrents from a lot of other people saying, yeah, writing's fantastic. Really?
No. Sorry,
I'm not a writer.
Say that again. You cut out there just for a second.
Oh, right. Oh, I'm not a writer, so I kind of want to hear from you. Like, are there many deterrents, or is it like, I'm going to be a writer and take over the world? How was the writing? Yeah. There's a fair number of deterrents. I mean, number one, I'm lucky to the point where I didn't have one deterrent that a lot of people seem to have, which is their family and friends saying, no, it's too hard, don't try it, you'll never make it, go be a machinist or whatever like that. And so my family's always been really supportive on that one. But yeah, once you're out there, you've got to actually get the book written, which is kind of a big hurdle in itself because you have to. You can't just write a book and, well, some people can. Stephen King can write a book in a weekend. I can't do that. So you have to stick with it and make sure it's good.
which again takes a while. And then you've got, of course, to deal with everybody else who's written their novel, and they're trying to get the attention of agents and publishers, or if they're self-publishing, they're in the huge mass of people who are now self-publishing these days, especially with how ebooks have really revolutionized the whole industry. So getting, you know, noticed in the pack, and yeah, various. I could probably talk a lot about hurdles, but that would be pretty depressing.
Right. But it's a realistic thing as well, because I think sometimes, you know, we go, yes, it's going to be so easy, and then it's like the harsh reality does kind of face there. I know that when we were speaking to a previous author, he just said that it happened really quite quickly for him, and he feels really bad about it because everyone else has had such complicated journeys to achieve anything. But when did you realise that this is what you wanted to do? Did you study anything after high school?
Your signal keeps cutting out again, but I think you said when did I start wanting to be a writer? Yeah.
Sorry, this is going to start.
When I was 19, I think was when I had the official epiphany that I actually sat down and said, okay, I'm actually going to try and do this. I'd always liked writing, and you know, when I was younger, I would come up with. I wrote and filmed some movies in college, and I did some like radio plays even before then when I was younger. But yeah, I was 19, and I was actually. It was the summer after my freshman year of college, and I was home at my parents' place, which didn't feel like home to me because they had just moved the year before, so I was just sort of isolated from everyone I had known that year, and feeling kind of, you know, the typical late teenage angst of, oh, you know, what am I going to do? But I was reading, I think it was Terry Brooks's Elfstones of Shannara for the first time, and I was really enjoying that, and that was sort of, you know, giving me a nice escape into that world, and I suddenly just had this idea that I want to do this too. I want to be able to write and tell stories that will, if not enrich people's lives, and at least give them some entertainment for, you know, 2 or 3 hours, and help them to just have a slightly better day or slightly better week or whatnot. So, though at the time I also didn't want to just go out and get an English degree and then just come out of college and say, okay, I'm a writer, pay me, because I figured that would be a easy way to starve. So I was focused on other things. But
So tell us a bit about your journey and how you actually came to get published for the first time.
Actually, Zeus is Dead is my third book, but this is the first one that's been published by an actual publisher, as opposed to the other two, which I self-published. So I self-published those 2 books. But
okay, so that's why you're talking about how hard it is to get noticed. Yeah.
Well, lost my train of thought. Yeah, it took me. It's okay. I wrote my first book and started pitching it to agents. This was about almost 10 years ago now. It was a sci-fi cyberpunk novel, and went to conferences, pitched it to agents there. You know, wrote query letters, tried to get people interested in that. It was my first novel. It probably was not. Well, I shouldn't say probably. It was not the best thing I've ever written. Of course, now that I've written some more. So, but I got some nibbles and enough interest to where people, encouraged me to keep going. So I sort of put that on the shelf, and I was writing the sequel, but it's hard to get a sequel published for a novel that hasn't itself been published. So I set those aside and decided to actually finally work on Zeus is Dead, and meanwhile self-published the first book just to get it out on the out in the world, so I can kind of release it and get out of my head.
Yeah, so it sounds like Zeus is Dead is probably something that's been an idea that you've had for a while, but just on the subject of self-publishing, what would you say are some of the pros and cons?
Well, the cons definitely is that there's a lot of people out there who are self-publishing. Some people are really, really successful at it. I could, like Brian Rathbone, who actually has helped me a lot with advice. He's doing extremely well, but there's this huge mass of people who, because you can pretty much just, especially with Amazon, you can just take a book or just a Word document you've written and toss it up, and there it is. And so you've got all these other books out there. So again, competing for attention. So it's a bit more accepted now, I think, self-publishing is. But on the other hand, you still have to deal with the stigma that's out there of, oh, these are books that no publisher wanted, so they had to publish it themselves. On the other hand, you do have a lot more control. There's a lot more experimental and interesting books out there. Not that regularly published books aren't interesting, but they have to go through agents and publishers who are looking for specific things that they already know will sell. Sometimes they'll take a chance on things, obviously, but not always. So your barrier there to get something a little more off the wall is definitely lower, which can definitely be a good thing. Plus, if it does well, then all the proceeds go back to you. But yeah.
Do all the proceeds? Because I was talking to a girlfriend that's writing how to sort of like it's a 3-part book series, and she said that the revenue that you get back from it's pretty outstanding. But like you're mentioning, it's one of however many thousands of other books are out there. But
right.
Is there does Amazon cut you a pretty good deal? Like, is it pretty sweet?
Yeah, it depends on if you're willing to go solely through them. Like, they have a deal where you can get like 70% of the sale of the proceeds, so 70% royalties. Mm-hmm. If you only sell through Amazon, like if you're not going through Barnes & Noble or iTunes or anything like that. And there's I haven't looked at it quite as recently, but so you can get a lower rate there. But that's a higher percentage than you would get through a regular publisher in most cases. Granted, a regular publisher will usually give you an advance against royalties, so you start out with a higher pile to start with. But yeah, and it really kind of varies on the route you go.
You were mentioning before that you've actually got either mentors or people that are helping you out a lot. Who are some of the people that you've been able to meet and that you can now call a friend because you're doing what you're doing now?
Actually, a lot of the people I've met online, but I've never actually met in person. Like I said, Brian Rathbone I've never met, but I've exchanged a lot of emails with him, and he's been really helpful. There are a few people I know here in Seattle who are really big supporters, but they're not necessarily in the industry there, but they have a geek focus, like David Taylor and the other people at sci-ficommons.com have been really, really awesome. Booktrope, who's my current publisher, is mostly Seattle-based, and so there's a lot of other authors here in the Seattle area who I've actually have met now and gone to conferences with and other events, and there's a lot of good support there. Just moral support plus, people helping people with advice and everything. So like Tiffany Pitts is one. God, I'm blanking on names now. Now I feel awful. But yeah.
Very dear friends, all have a special place in your heart.
Yes, thank you.
I actually kind of want to go way, way back, if that's cool. This is like how these ideas form, because you obviously write in a contemporary fantasy setting. And I want to know, and I'm assuming a lot here, but I think it's safe to assume this, that growing up a geek, you obviously would have been really immersed in the fantasy and sci-fi genre. Right. Do you think that helped you become the writer that you are? Is being a geek a good thing?
Well, of course it's a good thing. What kind of question is that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, massive. I forget how many of you have actually read the book yet, but I mean, I could not do the character of Thalia without that background. And yeah, I mean, it's just the references I make in Zeus is Dead, and just a general knowledge of fantasy and sci-fi that just sort of, if you're writing something, you have to do a little reading and expose yourself to it, so that definitely helps there also. But yeah, I think there's a certain geek attitude where we really embrace things that are more imaginative than just the standard mainstream drama, or basically things that are set specifically in the real world with nothing else there. I mean, I like the real world. It's great, and I live in it. But I live in it every day, and when I'm writing something or experiencing a game or anything like that, I want to experience something beyond that and add other things that I can't have in real life. So.
Yeah, I mean, as a geek, I, of course, like, will just daydream about, oh, wouldn't it be cool if, like, you know, this portal suddenly opened and, like, I could get sucked into my video game, or my game characters could come into the real world. And, yeah, I definitely love to imagine things like that. So I think it's a really cool thing to write about.
Yeah, I think what if this could happen is a huge part of being geek and the inspiration there. Yeah.
What are some of the big books that you read growing up that shaped you? That you'd read it in either one sitting, or after reading it you learnt something so deep about writing that it's kind of made you the person you are today?
Well, I know that. Can we include like 19 and 20 as in the growing up area? Because Dan Simmons' Hyperion, which I found when I was 18, really influenced me. Just the way he weaves these massively complicated storylines all together so seamlessly. I mean, that's something I aspire to, and don't think I'm there yet, because I mean that's huge.
Really hard.
Yeah, also that. Definitely Tolkien. I once I found The Hobbit, which I sort of came to that late because all my friends were reading it in 5th grade, and I had no idea what they were talking about, who this Bilbo person was. I was expecting him, some big, strong hero who actually killed Smaug, and sorry, spoilers. And I found out, oh, it's this little short Hobbit type person, and he doesn't even fight the dragon, and what? But I read it and and loved that. Lloyd Alexander's Prydain Chronicles were actually probably the first fantasy I ever read, based on Celtic and Welsh mythology, I think, which I didn't realize at the time, of course, but those definitely shaped me. I read Douglas Adams, obviously. I got the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy when I was about 14, and read that whole series, and then reread that whole series, and because they said fuck it.
You can see it.
I mean, I tried not to hate Douglas Adams because no one can do that. I don't know if you've read the 6th quote unquote book in the Hitchhiker's trilogy that was written by I forget his name now. He's the same guy who wrote Artemis Fowl. But I read it, but it's just you can't recreate Douglas Adams' voice. So it was sort of I shouldn't have tried to read that book because I knew I was going to be disappointed, despite the fact that the guy who wrote it is fantastic author in his own right. It's just not quite the same.
I think I speak on behalf of everyone else. And I'm included with this because I loved ancient history in high school. It's one of the few classes that I actually went and sat in the front of the class and was really eager to learn about. And like you, I'm guessing, Michael, you loved Greek mythology. I thought that was the best part. Yeah. I am a big sucker for Greek architecture as well. I can't go past a column without identifying if it's Doric, Ionic, or Corinthian, and I promise you it'll get me laid one day. I just don't know when it'll get me laid, but it will. That kind of important information. So I kind of want to throw this over to Tegan and Shona as well, because Tegan, you're a huge history buff. You love to know the origin of absolutely everything out there. Were you guys obsessed with Greek mythology as much as Michael?
Yes, but I'm also a massive, I was a massive ancient Egypt. I think I said in a previous one before that, when I was in year 2, grade 2, that I gave my teacher assignments on, hieroglyphics that she didn't want. Nobody wanted that. Nobody wanted any of that. But, yeah, obviously love Greek as well, and I'm a big Athena fan especially.
Ooh.
Do you know that I was nearly going to be named Athena? My name is Shona. It's quite unusual anyway.
That's so cool.
I totally see you as an Athena.
It was one of the names that they were considering. So anyway, yes, I'm also a huge fan. Maybe when you say as big as Michael, that might be a bit of a big call. But no, I was obsessed with it too. When I was quite young, I had this book called Myths and Legends, and it was just a beautifully illustrated book of all the different stories in Greek mythology, and I would just like pore over the pages and like study the pictures. And
did it have on the cover a picture of I forget his name, the guy who played the lyre and is rescued by dolphins, and I think Aeolus? No, not Aeolus. But
no, I'm trying to remember
okay.
what was on the front.
Because I had a book that was very much like that, and that's actually the first book I ever had on mythology, and I can not remember the name, but that sounds very familiar.
I'm not sure. If I was in Australia, I could just pull it out, and because I've still got it. I think it's got who was the guy that fought the Chimera? I think it's him. Like, it's got that on the front cover, but I'm not 100% sure.
Mm. Was that?
What a beautiful creature, by the way.
Yeah, I would need to look that one up.
Was the dolphin the
So, Michael, let's...
I want to say Theseus, but that might not be it.
I think it could be.
The same book?
That'd be very cool. I think the
That's
dolphin
great.
one is a poet. Like, didn't a dolphin rescue a poet? I just can't remember the name.
No, he was a musician, and he played the lyre so beautifully, and he was like captured by pirates, and they were gonna keel haul him or something, and so he was on the bow of the ship and playing, and Apollo looked down and said, "Hey, that's pretty damn good." So he sent some dolphins, and they saved him. And I don't know if they did anything to the pirates, but can't have everything.
So, Michael, your first foray into Greek mythology, was it in high school studying, or was it a book?
No, it was when I was a little boy. Actually, I was maybe 8 or 9, and I got this first book from my parents. At least I think it was them. I don't know if you've read the dedication in Zeus is Dead, but it dedicates it. The book is dedicated to my parents, who I think gave me the first book, but I'm not sure. Maybe it was my Uncle Frank. But yeah, that was the first one, and then enjoyed it on and off. Clash of the Titans came out when I was a kid. Saw that. I took Latin in high school, and so there was necessarily some Roman mythology mixed in with Greek in that. Some classics courses in college, and yeah, so the interest has always sort of been there. I can't remember when I didn't know all the names of the gods, and at least the major ones.
Well, the ones that you've decided to name yourself. I love that. So the idea, was it a dream? How did you know that this is what you wanted to tackle?
Well, actually, sort of goes back to some of the college courses I took, because one of the professors was talking about how the Greeks viewed the gods as basically human beings, just more beautiful, more powerful, more egotistical. But not infallible. And so I'm thinking, all these just fantastic characters who were just sitting there ready to be used in the public domain. And I was thinking I would love to write a new myth, not set in the modern time at that point. I was thinking just something set way back in ancient Greece, but with new mortal heroes and everything. Just because I wanted to write a lot about I could see some interesting political interactions between the gods, and because they have their own little alliances amongst themselves, and those are always shifting. So I thought that would be interesting. But at the time, I was maybe 20, 21, and I'm thinking, I love this idea so much, I don't have the skill to make it be the way I want to be. So I had to wait a while. And then after I wrote my first book, I was when I was still trying to pitch it, which was way back in 2002. I figured I need to write some short stories to get those published out there. So I was thinking, okay, what can I write short story wise? And I usually write in a cafe, and I was out actually in a cafe, and I'm not entirely sure where the idea specifically came from, but I thought, Greek gods, let's toss them in there, and I wound up writing a story about of course, about a writer. A little unoriginal there, but oh well. In a cafe, who gets approached by a guy who claims to be Apollo, and it was just fun to play with the back and forth, the dialogue, and having to reconcile what we know of the modern world, where the sun does not revolve around the Earth, with the whole Greek gods still running everything and how they would interact with the modern world. So I wrote a few of those stories like that, and when I was looking to write a third book, something standalone, I sort of, when I was brainstorming, I found myself coming back to those stories because I really had fun writing them and bringing them to life. And so I thought, hey, I could write something that would be, comedic and fun, and I would have a lot of ideas for it. So that's sort of where it wound up, and then went from there.
Can I just ask a question with that as well? With the whole idea of, I guess, gods in the New World. I'm going to assume you probably read Good Omens, and if so, what did you think of that take on it?
I really loved Good Omens. Actually, after I finished writing Zeus is Dead, people said, you need to read Pratchett, because I hadn't read any Pratchett at that point, and so they pointed me to Good Omens, and yeah, I loved the Four Horsemen and the way that we had Crowley and it's been a while since I read it. I forget the name of the angel, but they're back and forth. Yes, definitely one of my.
Very cool.
So when you tackle this notion, oh, sorry, honey, you go.
Oh no, that's fine. No, I was just going to ask. So, who is your favorite god? Because in Zeus is Dead, obviously Apollo is pretty much the main character here. Mm-hmm. I guess apart from Zeus, but he gets knocked off pretty quickly. So yeah, who's your favorite? Is it Apollo, or why did you choose him to be the main?
Apollo, well, I've always sort of had the most respect for Apollo because he seems to be the one who is all of the Greek gods have their moments where they're pretty much dicks, and Apollo seems to have the fewest of those. I mean, Zeus is running around, turning into bulls and carrying off maidens and basically, behaving very poorly, and the other people were turning people into Medusas just because they were in the wrong temple, and so Apollo is generally the nicer of the group. So I thought he would be interesting. He's sort of the one I admire, though I think Hermes is more fun. But also the idea where the central but the idea behind Zeus is Dead is that once the gods come back to the modern world and they make themselves known, then they've got all these mortals, praying to them and asking them for favors. And since I noticed that Apollo, you read the mythology, and he's god of the sun, god of the light, god of prophecy, the music, literature, poetry, archery, medicine. He's basically the overachiever of the pantheon. Yes, gelatin desserts also. You've read the book. And so I figured he's got all these mortals now asking him for favors in these various areas, and so he's got the lion's share of the work right now, and he's enough of a decent guy where he would probably want to keep doing a good job, so that would mean he'd be massively overstressed, and therefore would obviously want to do something about the fact that when Zeus died, everyone came back, and so that was his primary motivation, so it made him kind of the ideal choice for one of the main characters.
Did you do you wrote the quiz for your website, but did you get Apollo when you took it? Because someone else also got Apollo.
Yes.
Me too.
Yeah. I was about to comment on that.
I actually got the Fates, and
I got the Fates.
Ah, there you go.
Oh.
And
okay.
To be honest, it was when I was trying to put the quiz together. There was my first quiz I'd ever done, and you have to go with various algorithms for how things are chosen, and based on that and how I wanted it to show up on the website, I had to pick a particular way. So there are the quiz is not completely accurate, should not be used for any legal purposes, yada yada yada. But so some people complained that they got something they really didn't think they should get, but yeah. So I got the Fates.
Yeah, so we both got that, because I was quite placid in a lot of my answers. It was like, do you want to kill someone 19 times, or are you just not fast? And I was like, I'm not fast.
Yeah, they're the most serene.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, the questions were written more for humor than for actual psychological analysis.
You
might have noticed that. But I mean, if you like your answer, then yes, it's definitely perfect and complete and intended.
If you haven't done the quiz, it is up on Michael's website. You can check that out, michaelgmunz.com. I've noticed that there's a few great things on there that I will get back to. Your love of Farscape being one of them, because I'm watching that again. Oh, best show. But I want to know, when researching Greek mythology, you'd had a lot of, you delved into it quite a bit as a kid and a teenager, but is there anything that you only discovered upon starting Zeus is Dead? And did it make it into the book?
I didn't know too much about the Fates. When I knew I wanted them to be involved in the book, but I didn't have any real background on them. I just knew that there were three women who measured and cut and spun the thread with a knife, but that was pretty much it. So before I actually wrote that whole section, I went in and had to do some research on them. I did have to learn, because some of the gods I knew a lot more about than others. I was trying to figure out with Hecate anything about her, because she's one of the gods I think that the Greeks kind of appropriated from other cultures, and so there's a lot of different stories about her.
Or maybe she keeps it all a secret.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that was actually one of the conclusions I came to. Just because, she's, like sometimes they consider her to be another aspect of Artemis. Sometimes she's her own goddess, and so. But it was mostly the Fates that were the main things I didn't really know about. Others I knew a reasonable amount, but I had to brush up some things. I had forgotten some things because I haven't read too much Greek mythology since college, and I had to brush up my awareness there. But
are there any characters or stories from Greek mythology that you really wanted to use in the book, but you couldn't? Like you couldn't write it in, or it just didn't work?
I would have loved to have done more having to do with Odysseus and his journeys. I did consider somehow bringing him into the story, but I couldn't figure out how I wanted to do that. If he was going to be, turned out to be immortal and had came back with the rest of the gods, or some sort of time travel thing, or something like that. And just his whole journey. And I thought about having them go through areas in Greece where they run into those the I forget what the rocks are called, but when they smashed them there, or just a sort of mountain caves with cyclopes in them, or things like that. But yeah, I couldn't figure out how to really make it work to fit. The book was long enough, so.
You also managed to not let sort of the history restrict you in what you were going to do. So you created a lot of monsters and people and personalities yourself. What were some of the fun things that you created on your own that you're pretty bloody proud of?
I would have to say, the razor wings. That's the cat. I got the book here. That's one of these. Just because that was sort of based on they're kittens. They're feral kittens with bat wings and spit poison, but they're not really malicious. They're just kittens who just happen to be kind of deadly at times. And this was sort of based on my experience with trying to sleep in. There you go.
Cats. Here's one we looked at earlier.
And I did when I came up with the Ortholepsian Wraith. No, I don't want to.
That's a tongue twister. I'm not gonna lie.
Yes.
I skimmed when I read it as well.
I'm glad What? Well, I didn't catch that.
Oh, I said I usually read quite fast. I speed read. Mm-hmm. So when there's an orthe, I just kind of cut it back in my head. So it's
I actually do that too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was glad I was writing it rather than having to pronounce it all the time. But yeah, I feel self-conscious because I don't feel like mean to say I'm bragging. I'm so great I created this, but yeah, I like combining those.
Yeah, it's cool. I thought it was really cool. I wasn't sure when I first saw the mention of it. I thought, is that from Greek mythology? And I saw, what was nice in the whole book was that, you gave a lot of introductions to different characters or themes. So even if you didn't know Greek mythology, you can still read the book quite easily. So I've heard the story of Laelaps and all of that. And I'm they were turned to stone, and I thought they were flung up into the stars and turned into constellations. But hang on, this wraith, is that a thing? And I actually just jumped on the internet to double check that it wasn't something that already existed.
Yeah, actually, Orthrist was one of the things that now I think about it, was one of the things in mythology I didn't know about until I came across him. Like he's a sort of a cousin to Cerberus, I think, but he's only got 2 heads, and then he of course died. And I think Hercules killed him. Yeah.
Hercules.
Yeah.
Did you watch Hercules and Xena growing up on TV?
I did not, actually. People have asked me that before, and I said no, and I said, yeah, you probably shouldn't. I'm like, okay.
The only one that actually really liked it.
No, I loved it.
I loved it too.
Well, I've been told that Xena would be more on my alley because that shows more tongue-in-cheek than Hercules, but I don't know if that's true or not.
I don't know. I would probably say it might be. I don't know, because I thought probably Hercules was a bit more lighthearted, because Xena, after the first couple seasons, started to get a bit more serious in some ways, but both of them, I think, are a lot of fun.
Isn't Kevin Sorbo still very serious about Hercules?
Yes, he is. I interviewed him, and he really, really bitter about Dean Cain because Kevin Sorbo went for Superman, and I think that Dean Cain went for Hercules. Each other's respective roles kind of deal. And Dean Cain had a longer career, and Kevin Sorbo is not happy about that.
Oh.
Okay.
Did he have anything to say
Questioning
about
from Lance. Oh. Did he have yes about the new Hercules? Yes,
Yeah.
he did. He thought it was insulting that they didn't even ask him to do a cameo. Like, what the people would have wanted. They're not thinking about the people. Like, that was a pretty terrible movie as well. He dodged a bullet. I've got a question in from Lance Thompson. And guys, if you've got any questions for Michael, just comment in the box below the video because it pops up and we can ask. Lance asks, how did you decide when to add new Greek gods in addition to the well-known ones that have always been around? And which was your favorite new addition out of the gods that you included?
Well, that might get into spoiler territory, but I how to say this without a spoiler. I decided...
drop a spoiler.
Okay, what? Okay.
Drop a spoiler.
I'm trying to think of how much to say.
Zeus dies.
Well, I knew that toward the end of the book, when after certain things have happened, which I won't go into, there needed to be a couple new gods, and because just for the whole the alliances that were formed toward the end of the book, one of them wasn't strong enough. There wasn't enough power behind this particular side. Plus, I did know I knew that. Okay, spoiler again. Some of the new gods are created in conjunction with the CERN Super Collider, which was actually a plan set in motion, like back when that was first constructed, by one of the gods to create new gods in the event that new gods would be needed. So I sort of knew all along that there would be some new gods showing up before the end of the book. I wasn't quite sure what they would be until I got to the point where they were actually going to be created. And so one person, there's one of the gods is named Jerry, who was a friend who was kind of... Well, a friend of mine who was reading that said, okay, you have to do X, and X became Jerry. And another one named Baskin... That happened organically, and that's all I'm going to say about that at the moment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite?
Of the new ones?
Mm-hmm.
Baskin was the most fun to write.
I can imagine, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah.
Do you get any moments, you were just saying how things would unfold as you write, did you have any moments where you were just at your wit's end, you had writer's block, or was it a pretty breezy kind of start, where to go?
Well, I like to outline when I start, so I know generally where I'm going and how I'm going to get there. It definitely changes as I'm going, as you write and certain things occur to you as you've gotten things getting on the page. So I don't think there was anything specific where I was really stuck. There was toward the end when all Hades is breaking loose, that I didn't quite know how some things were going to happen logistically, and I had to get certain parties maneuvered into certain places for X and Y and Z to happen. So I did have trouble just trying to figure out how to get from point X to point Y. But the main writer's block I had was when I was actually in the planning process, and I was just, sketching out the actual story beats and figuring out, okay, I know I had various points that I wanted to hit just because I thought they were funny or that I thought would be interesting, and trying to work them all together in a way that didn't make them seem too tacked on. Hopefully I succeeded. I'm not entirely sure I was 100% perfect on that one, but...
Yeah, but you're writing, essentially like fantasy, and most of these characters are gods, so they can do anything. They can just snap their fingers and magic something into existence. So I guess that would have helped a lot. Did you find that was something that made it easier to overcome some of the blocks, or did it make it more complicated?
A little of both, actually. Some ways, when you've got a bunch of characters running around who are gods and have this godly power, then you've got the problem of having everyone be too powerful, and how come they can't just snap their fingers and fix everything. So something that happens with Apollo midway through was a big help to that. And it also helped to actually be able to limit some of the power in a sense, because like I mentioned very early on that invisibility doesn't work very well on gods, so like if a god becomes invisible, he might be invisible to everybody else, but the other gods can usually see him if they're concentrating. So it made things more difficult in the sense that I had to work out how to keep that power in there without making it seem too obvious that I was just completely ignoring all the power that they can fling around. But it was also fun once if I needed something to happen, I could just more or less, God my way through it, I guess.
And then with the gods themselves, the personalities that you've given them in the book, they're quite over the top. Like for me, many of them just felt almost like caricatures, like, Dionysus, and he's there in Vegas with his casinos and, just partying it up the whole time. And so then when it came to some of the other characters, like even Apollo to a degree, and I'd say also Tracy. At first I felt Tracy was quite boring, and then I suddenly realised, wait a minute, no, she's just a regular woman who's been thrown into all this craziness. And then, she began to grow on me as soon as I realised that. But just everyone else seemed so over the top. And was that intentional?
It was. I figured I was writing comedy, so if I wasn't writing something comedic, I would have probably pulled them back a bit. But with comedy, I've sort of learned that you want to just exaggerate as much as you can, as much as you can get away with, really, and just draw from the comedy there. But yeah, especially Dionysus, I probably went really far with him.
Would party with Dionysus. It actually reminded me a lot of Christopher Moore's work as well. Like he does similar things with his characters. Like when, for example, like in his novel that he wrote, it was kind of like a parody of King Lear. Mm-hmm. That was really fun as well, and so I really love that sort of thing.
Uh-huh. What's the name of that one? I haven't.
Oh, what is the name of that one? I should know that. Considering that I read it, I should probably know that. I can tell you in about 10 seconds.
My problem lately, I read on a Kindle now, and I find that I forget the names of books because I'm not picking up the book and seeing the cover all the time. I'm just pushing the button, and there it is on the screen.
What I like about mine, I've got a Kobo, and when I put it into sleep mode, it shows the cover, which is good, yeah.
That's a good idea. Mine just shows advertisements because I paid.
Yeah, the book's called Fool, so it's sort of from the perspective of the fool who's in King Lear, of course. So yeah.
Cool.
I was going to ask, because this is set in a modern era and these characters are quite distinct, if not a little bit flamboyant, have you kind of personified them to actual people or actors? Are you thinking, gosh, Apollo would be played so well by Benedict Cumberbatch or something like that? Have you had those?
Some of them definitely. Others I had, like, because people, and when the book first came out, people were asking me, who would you, as interview questions, who would you cast if this were a movie? And so, as I was writing Dionysus, I was seeing Nathan Fillion. I couldn't help it.
Yes!
Right.
We love him.
Yeah.
Apollo, I've never really had a good match on. I forget the name of the actor who plays Jamie Lannister, but I thought he could do a good job with Apollo. But yeah, and
Nikolai. His name's Nikolai. Something.
yes, him.
Google. Yes.
And actually, after I wrote.
Any others?
David Tennant, I think, would make a decent Hermes, especially since I imagine it with an English accent. And Ares was a little bit, and maybe I shouldn't admit this, but he was a little bit influenced by Jane from Firefly, so that's more of a character than an actor. But yeah, Leif, I have no idea, but I guess he's not a mythological character. So.
Here's a fun fact about Leaf, the name. It was the only Dungeons and Dragons character that I killed accidentally.
Was it your character or somebody else's?
It was my character.
Yeah. Well, how'd that happen?
Leaf died. Leaf died in my hand. I cried, man. I killed the character. But Leaf was a chick. And the DM every time would be like, like a leaf on the wind. And I'd be like, shut up, man. But let's delve into your geeky side a little bit more, because you are wearing a Star Wars t-shirt, and you are a huge Farscape fan, and Blaine Cuzner, who's watching, he wanted to comment in going, woo, Farscape! And Cammy was like, woo, the screen! And then Let's is like, woo, Jerry! Everyone's got their thing. They're all commenting on their favourites right now, which is really
awesome.
Cool.
Woo! Twin Peaks!
Yes! I went to Twin Peaks High School.
What? Really?
Yeah, the one they used for Fire Walk with Me. I hadn't actually seen the series at the time, but then I watched the movie and like, oh my god, it's Snohomish High School, and it looks nothing like that now. But I'm just watching Bobby and Laura walk across, the main yard there. The room where James, this is a bit of trivia for you, the room where James and Donna have sex was actually called the multi-purpose room.
Yeah, it was.
That's fantastic. This is a bad time to confess that I've never seen Twin Peaks.
Well,
it's alright, me neither.
It's on Netflix.
Right. But on your website, Michael G. Munz, for those that haven't jumped on yet, you did you were quite into the Farscape side of things. You have a blog about it. Yes,
yeah, I'm still. I need to get back on that. I haven't had a chance to. I've watched another episode, but I haven't figured out how to write about it yet. Yeah, I'm in the middle of the second season right now. Just doing a rewatch and putting my thoughts up there, which I'm not sure how many people care about, but there it is.
Are you blogging every episode?
Yeah, little by little, when I have time. So I'm not able to binge watch it at this point because I'm binge watching other things. But I do a little bit at a time. I think I left off at The Locket, which is season 2 somewhere. Yeah.
Chiana's come in. I remember meeting Gigi Edgley, who plays Chiana, at the races in Australia. And she's like, hi, I'm Gigi. I'm like, I know who you are. Are you okay?
Gigi Edgley is fantastic. She's on Twitter. You probably know that. She's retweeted me a few times, which is kind of, awesome.
She's so great. And I told her, I was like, I'm such a big fan of Farscape. And she said, you're one of 3 people in Australia that watches that show.
Wow, really?
That's not true. My brother watches it, my mum watches it, and we all watch it. We've got the box set, and I'm obsessed with it. But I want to put this to you because actually Tegan started something called the Throwdown Thursday.
Friday Fandom Throwdown.
Yeah, the FFF, the T.
Yeah.
What's better, Firefly or Farscape?
Oh. So with whatever I answer, someone's going to hate me.
Correct.
Okay, so we're talking about if I had to live in a universe without one or the other.
Yeah.
Uh,
I want you to choose between your children.
I'm gonna have to go with Farscape, just because it's it made it 4 seasons. It's so. I mean, granted, they're both really different than most stuff out there, but just the work of the Jim Henson Company and everything. I mean, there's very few shows where you see so many aliens that are not humanoid. I mean, granted, there's a lot of humanoid ones running around in Farscape too, but I mean, just where else have you seen a show where you've got a character like Pilot or Rigel who are actually emoting in ways that are really kind of powerful, and actually, because there's scenes with Claudia Black and Pilot, and they're, she's playing to the puppet, and it's just amazing, and yeah, so I don't want to choose between them, but since you made me, I'm gonna have to pick Farscape.
Sorry.
People get so upset with me every Friday doing that to them.
Yeah, I was going to say I can see Claudia Black being Athena.
Ooh.
Easily, yes. Or
Fantastic.
there was someone else I had. Yeah. I always sort of imagined Aphrodite as blonde somehow, but.
Oh no, I was
Yeah,
going to
me
ask who
too.
you saw as Aphrodite.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oop,
Who do you see playing Aphrodite?
She's one of the ones I haven't really been able to peg. Occasionally I'll toss out
Maude.
an idea, but
Oh, yeah.
it's just I can't quite find someone that I really feel is specifically her. They would have to be open casting auditions for that.
There you go, Maude. You're in.
Yeah, go
Yeah.
for it.
Did you guys know? Here's another fire. Yeah, all right. If I have to, I'll be Aphrodite. I do want to know. Do you guys know that Carl Urban played Cupid in Xena?
Yes.
No.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. And I said it to him. When I met him, I brought it up.
How was he portrayed? Cupid, I mean.
He was this he wasn't as sexy as Ares, because Ares would talk.
Oh,
he would
yeah.
be like this. But Cupid Carl was so young. This was his first role because he's Kiwi, and I think he would have been one of the local actors. He was tanned up, bleached blonde hair. You have to Google it to believe it. It doesn't look a thing like him. It's fantastic. It's amazing.
Yeah, because he also played Julius Caesar as well on Xena, and he was quite a main character, quite important to the overall plot. And at first I didn't even realise it was the same guy, because back then I didn't know who Carl Urban was.
He's like king of geeks. He's in Star Trek. He was Dredd. He's just killing it, that guy. Good on him. And to finish things off, I'm guessing you've been to a few conventions, done sort of the circuits with that, and met a lot of other people who are also guests at the convention. Who have you met that you had a Tegan, oh my god, I love you moment with?
I actually haven't been to too many conventions, so
What?
Michael Shanks, actually. There was a panel with him at ECC, I want to say 2013? Maybe 2012, I forget. But and I got briefly just sort of brushed past him and said I really like your work, and I'm sorry you keep dying. And he laughed.
Yeah.
but yeah, I'm never sure what to say, when I meet someone who's in that sort of position, because I'm like, I get all self-conscious. I'm thinking, what can I say that they haven't heard millions of times already? So perhaps I tend to avoid that a little bit less than I should, or more than I should.
Yeah, it's like, I've been watching you on TV for the last 10 years, I love you.
Yeah.
But then I find that when I do that, I just realise, they're just another person at the end of the day, and you just treat them like anyone else, and it's cool.
Yeah.
Isn't that right, Maude? Isn't that right? Like when we meet Nate Fillion.
Yeah, I cried when I met him. I didn't do it in front of him, though. I saved it by going to the bathroom and weeping when I got to the bathroom. But Yeah, no, I cried. I've met him a number of times since then. But that was bad because I interviewed his co-host, Stana Katic, and I cried in front of her, talking about the time when I cried when I met Nathan. Anyway. What's happening now with you, Michael? What's next?
Right now I'm working on the third book in what's called the New Aeneid cycle, which is my cyberpunk series. Book Trope, my publisher for Zeus is Dead, has picked up the first 2 books in this series. Those are the ones that self-published, and we're working on getting those out. So right now they're available as ebooks, but they're being slightly tweaked and will be out on for ebooks and paperback. Sometime this fall. We're still kind of figuring out exactly when they'll be out. But I've promised people who have already read the series that I will have the third and final book in that coming out sometime in 2015. So I'd be in between all the promoting. I'm trying to find time to write. So that's the main thing that's on the horizon. Yeah, and then I hope to write a sequel to Zeus is Dead after I'm done with that, and I have a few ideas. Having to do with where Hecate came from, but I don't know specifically anything yet.
Ooh, interesting.
You can see under his name, he is on Twitter. You can check him out there. Put you up on the big screen so people can write it down. It is the right Munz, and it's the wrong right. It's the writing right.
Yeah, it's a terrible pun.
And the right. I love puns. There is no such thing as a terrible pun. Thank you very much.
That's a
you can also jump on his website. Done. The pun done deal. MichaelGMunz.com is his website. You can check out his bio, his Farscape blog, other novels, and a contact there. You can also subscribe to his website. So jump onto that and sign up to the mailing list. Hey, Michael,
if you do that, if you've read Zeus is Dead and you want to see those 3 stories that inspired it, there's sort of a spiritual prequel. If you subscribe on the website, you'll get a free copy of those.
I'm doing that right after this.
Yeah.
Oh, that is from Michael to you. There you go. Michael, thank you so much for being our guest on this week's Geeks Unleashed book club
edition.
Thanks
for having me.
Hope to check you out soon. Don't forget that this link, as soon as we press stop, it will be live on, or it'll go up on our YouTube page. So anyone who's missed it, don't worry, you can catch it again in full. Thank you again.
Thank you for having me. It was fun.
I'm just saying, speaking of YouTube, I'm going to have a review of Zeus is Dead going up on there soon as well.
There you go. Well, this
hopefully you didn't think it sucked.
No. Spoiler alert, it's good.
Back. The bomb has been dropped. That was terrible.
You literally cut out. We didn't know what was
I have no idea what you said.
We was like,
this has been Big Bomb and then nothing. And I was like,
just these ones.
So,
Should we